Hey, what's going on guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm currently working on my Flagberg flagship dragon review part 2, where I go over a deck profile I've been concocting the last few days, but we've had so many reveals from the Tuesday livestream, so I decided to make a little video going over all the cards that have been revealed in the Tuesday livestream, as there was a lot of information that was really interesting. So I hope you don't mind, it's a bit of a low effort video, but I can assure you there's gonna be a cool video about Flagberg flagship dragon deck profile coming up soon. So the first card we have that was revealed is Shadow Cloaked. That's his name, Shadow Cloaked. It's a dog-like Stoichea card that has the effect: when this unit is placed on the rearguard circle from your hand, search your deck for up to one order card and reveal it. And if your drop zone does not have a card with the same name as that card, discard the revealed card and shuffle your deck. Then a second ability: when you play an order, cost Soul Blast 1, and this unit gets plus 5k until the end of the turn. During Alchemagic, choose one of your other rear guards and you may return them to the hand. So that's really interesting. It has some potential to replace certain cards on the field that have skills. So if you have multiple of Shadow Cloaked, I think you can actually loop his effect when you're Alchemagicking. So you get actually 3 order cards that you can send to the drop zone, or you can send one with the first one, then you can search one with the second one and search the second copy with the third one. So that's really interesting because it's a plus. And since it's an order card, you can also just get blitz orders to your hand, as far as I know. So that's really cool. So I think there's actually some potential for Shadow Cloaked in a non-Zorga build. That's something we have to look into, whether or not that's a good idea. But I really like this card. I think he really deserves a triple rare spot. The next card is Dead Inviting Black Magic. This cost is reduced by Counterblast 1 for each card in your bind zone. Reduce the total cost if during Alchemagic. Play this with cost Counterblast 4, draw 2. So that's really interesting. If we're capable of putting 5 cards in our bind zone, we're able to refund an extra Counterblast, and even better, we can actually refund 2 if we use the card from the last set, the zombie one that gives you free Counterblast for an Alchemagic. So that's really interesting. I think this has a lot of potential if we get more cards that bind themselves, because currently I think the only way to bind cards is through Alchemagic, which means we do 1 card per turn, which is gonna take a while before it's actually useful. But it's something to look into, and probably a card that will be interesting towards the future, maybe even in premium. The next card is Carrion Handler. His skill says Counterblast 1, bind this unit, choose an order card from your drop zone and return it to the hand. So this binds itself, so that's immediate synergy with the previous card we looked at. But a Counterblast and bind to return an order card to your hand is a bit odd, because it's, you could say that a Counterblast is also a resource that's pretty equal to a draw 1. So it's a -2 just to get 1 card back to the hand. This is a bit questionable. Unless we get a lot of effects that benefit from having a card bind, I don't know if this is necessarily that good early on. Although the deck doesn't really use that much Counterblast currently, the better our order cards are getting, the more Counterblast they're probably gonna cost, so that's something we have to look into. But it's a really interesting card because it's an extra bind. Side note, this is also interesting in Aquaforce. It's really janky, a really janky combo I'm thinking of, but we have a Great 1 card, I don't know the exact name again, but that is capable of guarding with cards from your bind zone when your Vanguard is attacked. And it gives us plus 5k shield, so that becomes a 10k shield you can just bind and get the order card back to your hand. So if you even run 1 order card in the entire deck, this might be a way just to recycle it. But that's just an idea, just a thing to think about. But it's interesting. Then we had the announcement for the Bushw TCG strategy presentation, which we had yesterday, so that's really interesting. Let's go over what they revealed. Oh, there was first another card, Drilling Angel. His skill says, when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, cost, put a unit from your drop zone into your soul, look at 3 cards from the top of your deck, and choose 1 card from among them with the same card name as a card put into your soul for this cost. Call it to rearguard circle. His skill is really interesting. I don't really think it's that useful for Ovedress, but it somehow feels like support for Fortuna in premium, as she's capable of stacking the deck, and then if you know that a certain card is in your soul but also on top of your deck, you could use his skill to look at the top of the deck, call it out, and that way you are guaranteed an extra body on the field. Oh, and his skill says that he's put from the drop zone into the soul, so it replaces itself. So there's no actual soul blasting going on. So this is really interesting. I have to look into what application I could use for it. I think this card is really meant for Fortuna in premium, and that's probably where I should be looking to see if it actually works. Next up, we received Cardinal Draco Destiarde. Sounds a bit like Destroy, I think that's what they're going for. If your world is Dark Knight, this unit gets plus 2k, and if you're an Abyssal Dark Knight, it gets plus 5k. So that's a skill many cards are receiving within the Rentgate, within the specific Cardinal Draco archetype. So, and this is also active during your opponent's turn, so it's a 15k attacker pretty much. And then auto, at the end of the battle that this unit attacks, retire 3 Shadow Army tokens and stand this unit. Oh, that's very interesting. So it's a restander for the Shadow Army deck. This means that they get 1, 2, 3, 4. They get 4 swings pretty much right now. That's more than 3, so that's really cool. Since this can attack after your Vanguard, you can stack over triggers or even critical triggers on this, which is really cool. This means we can do the same thing as Valiente for a better price, since it doesn't need to hit and it just retire your Shadow Army tokens, which you probably want to retire anyway because you can call new ones the next turn. Okay, something's really interesting about this card is that it's not once per turn, which means that if we get another card that's capable of generating Shadow Army tokens during the battle phase, that we would be able to restand him twice. But we would need 3 Shadow Army tokens in the back row, we use them up for Destiarde's skill, and then we need a way to call 3 more. So I have to look into that, whether or not that exists, and if it does, I will show it on the screen. The next card is Cardinal Draco Stilgurge. When this unit is boosted by a Shadow Army token, cost Soul Blast 1 and counter charge 1. So it's a counter charger for the deck. I don't know whether or not that is useful right now, but that's always nice to have, even if it's not that necessary right now, maybe for the future. Blitz Interrupter, that's a Battleroid for Rentgate, which says when this unit is put on the Guardian Circle, cost Soul Blast 1 and discard a set order from your hand, and this unit gets plus 15k shield until the end of battle. So Rentgate has another 20k shield now. I don't know if they want to run this, but it might be good because Rentgate is the same deck that has access to the Shadow Army tokens, so they're not that reliant on building a board, so they have more cards in hand. So something like this is really cool, because it's discard 2 for a 20k shield, which is decent, I suppose. Yeah. Then we received the effect for Expecta, I believe that was his name, Verena Expecta. His skill says you may place it by stacking it on a specific unit instead of normal calling it, and it needs to be stacked on a unit in the Ovedress state, so he can be called over a Verena Valiente, a Verena Arx, Urger, over all those cards, but they need to be in Ovedress state, so that's pretty interesting. He needs to be the third one, so it's unlike Valiente, who can also just be stacked on Trickstar. This one needs to be over a unit that's already in Overdress. His continuous skill says this unit gets the original power of all the original dresses, which means you get the Trickstar and the unit that was originally in Overdress state, so that's always a minimum of 15k extra power that he gets, so it's base 28k pretty much. And since it's continuous, it's on both turns, and if you put him over Valiente, I think he puts you up to, let me think for a second, 15, 28, it's 41, he becomes 41, so that's pretty cool. Because that means he can get boosted by the critical trigger we have received last month somewhere, I think it's about 3 weeks ago already. The critical trigger that has 4k power, but gives an effect of giving 2k when it goes to the soul, so that means you can put that 2k on Expecta and he becomes 43 base, so that's really, really cool. And then second skill says when this unit attacks a grade 3 or greater Vanguard, if this unit is in Overdress state, costs Counterblast 1 and this unit gets plus 15k and a critical trigger until the end of battle. At the end of the battle, put all of this unit's original dresses into the drop. So this means this is actually a finishing move. The only reason why you would use this is if you know that your opponent is gonna retire it anyway next turn, or if you just want to push for a game because that extra critical and that extra power is actually really, really strong. I'm quite surprised that we get such an effect right now. as I expected the game to go a bit slower, because this kind of feels like a power creep, as Valiente may restand, but he gets never that much power, and a critical is a bit easier to abuse if they don't have a PG, but if they had a PG, they could have stopped the Valiente anyway, so this is really interesting. So with that full power stack I was talking about, where you put Valiente over another Overdressed unit and then this on top of that, you would be at 41, then the crit gives you 43, and then another 15, that puts you at 58k power. That's insane. That's literally insane. That's a 3, I think it's a 4 card guard even, if they don't have 20k shields. So we'll have to see whether or not he is that amazing as he sounds. I think we have to make sure that there's room for him in the deck, because he's just that strong. Maybe he even replaces Valiente, as that's a bit of a high roll combo I was just talking about, and I think it's easier to just do it on a normal Overdressed unit anyway. Then next up we had one of the coolest announcements we had so far. It's V-Series, nostalgia pandering, but I don't mind because I really like it. And it's volume 3 and 4, so volume 1 and 2 haven't been released yet in Europe and America, so that kind of sucks that we already see the next set, because I believe there are quite a few people who might decide to even just wait out now until we get some effects reveals from volume 3 and 4 to decide whether or not they will invest in the upcoming set. But having seen these cards might convince some other people already to invest, as they don't want to be late to the party where everything's gonna be expensive. So that's really interesting. I think we'll get to see more images later on, so I'm gonna move on to the next part. Then we received the booster image for Booster Pack 4, and that's another Verena form. I believe they released his name already, but I don't have it here. I will put it up on the screen so you can look at it, and it really just looks like a Stride version of Arcs maybe. It looks really cool with the Wolverine-like claws. So I can't wait to see what he does, but it's something we will see only really close to the release of the set. But that's only 3 months away at this point, so that's some nice things to look forward to. I'm quite excited to see what he does. The set is also named Awakening Chakrabarti, Awakening Chakrabarti, which to me sounds almost like we're getting a new form of Nirvana rather than of Varina. So maybe we get an Overdress for our Vanguard that retires itself at the end of turn, where we have to slide a Trickstar into our soul and then overdress it over our Vanguard. That would be so cool, because that would be like Stride, but like Stride Fusion maybe. That's something really interesting if they went that way, but he doesn't really look like Nirvana, rather other than being really big. But I kind of hope that he does that. That would be so cool. Okay, then we have some random information, and then next card that was revealed for Dragon Empire, Blaze Fist Monk Tenji. Tenji says, when your rearguard is placed, if it was an Overdress, you may draw a card. If you drew, choose a card from your hand and discard it. So this is some cycling we get when we Overdress, which might work with the next card that we're reading into, but just by himself he isn't really a plus, so I don't think he's that useful. Then we received an order card, Prayer of Resonating Wishes. Play this card with cost Counterblast 1, choose one of your Vanguards, and until the end of the turn it gets auto Vanguard. When your rearguard is placed, if it was an Overdress, draw a card, and this unit gets plus 5k until the end of turn. So let's break that down. When we place a rearguard in Overdress state, we draw a card. So that's pretty much like Digimon. When you evolve, you draw a card. So it's pretty much like Digimon. When you evolve your Verena or your Trickstar, you draw a card. And when this unit get plus 5k, so the plus 5k goes to your Vanguard, and that's really important in this part, because otherwise if you kept overdressing you kept losing the 5k, and that wouldn't be interesting. So it's power stacking on your Vanguard, which is always useful since he's our first swing and we want to pressure as much as we can with that first swing. But if we combine this with the skill of the previous card of Tenji, that actually means that we're capable of cycling through the deck and looking for Overdress cards, which might be interesting, since that means that we can go all the way up into the new form, into Expecta, for just a -1 from using the new order card, because just using the order by itself is a -1, but every Overdress we do is a break even. Pretty much, yeah, it's a break even, so that's interesting. so we don't lose that much out anymore if we use this combination. Next we saw some art for the V-Clan collection volume 3 and 4. So yeah, Jewel Knight, Pale Moon, my favorite one, Aqua Force, Himiko Reverse, which is honestly it's an insane looking card. I'm convinced I'm gonna use this card in my I've literally already convinced myself I'm gonna build this deck, whether or not it's good or not. Since I've already committed to building Fortuna, it's not gonna be that hard since I've got most pieces, but she's just so good looking. And obviously I'm always building Aqua Force decks, so Maelstrom Reverse, he was one of my favorites from back in the day when I first started playing and I saw his art. He was like amazing to me. I never really realized they were all horses until I saw new arts later on, but they did a really good job at capturing his spirit and the way he looks. Obviously the Pale Moon and Jewel Knight one look cool as well, but I do not know enough about those clans to really talk about them. Then we received Raging Fall Dragon Reverse. So it's a reverse form of Raging Fallen Dragon, which is something entirely new that didn't exist before, which is really cool. We have the Grand Azul Scissors, I think the name was. That's one that fills the field and for a counterblast, I believe, in 0 currently, and gets critical if you have a full field. So I think his effect will be quite similar, where he just fills out your board, and that's really cool. And I don't know if we have a superior right line currently in the V series, but just having that Azul name means he's going to be useful in other formats as well. Then another really interesting card that was revealed was Celica Reverse. So originally there was another Great Nature reverse unit, but I think they just saw that this card was so popular, being a Musketeer, that they decided to just go with this one, and I really like it. She has super cool art, and Musketeers are really cool, because in the current set we just received some support for them, and I hope this is gonna work with that as well. Then Amon, who wasn't in the V series before, and now got a card revealed, so that's really cool for the people who like Amon. I personally don't really care that much for him. I would have thought it was cooler if we received something like Reiji Reverse, since Reiji was just revealed in the last set and was a bit mediocre. So if he got more support, that might be interesting for some people who like dark irregulars. But for Amon fans, this is really cool. And then we received the box art for volume 3 and 4. And what's interesting is that they just went with the same clan split as last time. So everyone that's committing to only one of the two sets can commit to it again. Me and a friend of mine are committing to V-Clan Collection Volume 1. So we might be committing to V-Clan Collection Volume 3 again, because we had a good split between the clans that we like. So I hope that the revealed cards for this set are gonna be amazing, so we can do that same split again in the future. Then we received some more cards for Desert Gunners, so for the Eugene deck. Eugene best deck, let's go! When this unit is placed on rearguard circle, if your Vanguard is Eugene, put a card from your hand into your soul, draw a card, and choose one of your opponent's grade 2 or greater rearguards and retire it. So it's an on-place retire, which is really cool, and might have some future potential if we get some way to superior call during our opponent's turn. I don't know, there might be some ways in Premium to already do that, but I'm not that well versed in most of the Dragon Empire related clans. When this unit attacks, costs Soul Blast 1, and this unit gets plus 2k until the end of the battle for each of your opponent's open rearguard circles, so that's amazing. He receives power for each open circle, which means you want your opponents to be at 2 units, that's plus... So he gets plus 8, I think, because that's 4, yeah, that's 4 open circles, so that's an 18k attacker. You're capable of doing some really cool stuff with that. So I really like this card, since just put a card from your hand in soul, which is an effect you were gonna do anyway. And because this does not need to be placed from hand, you can top deck call it with Eugene as well. So there's really good utility for this card in the deck. It's gonna boost up Eugene quite well. So I don't think Eugene is gonna be the worst deck in the format anymore. People are gonna be sleeping on this, and it's gonna knock some people down. When this unit is put on the Guardian Circle, if your opponent's attacking unit is not boosted, this unit gets plus 10k shield until the end of turn. So it's a 15k shield for Eugene, but it's only a 7k attacker. So I don't know how good this card is gonna be, since you're practically taking away power to get more defensive, but with how strong Persona rights are in the current format, I don't know how useful it's gonna be to have another 10k shield, since it's very restrictive because your opponent needs to not boost. Now obviously if they have a booster, that means they're committing more cards to the field, so you have more cards to retire. but you're taking away from your own offensive power by just running this card, so I don't know if it's that good. And then for the final card that was revealed, it's an order card for Eugene that says play this card with cost +1. If your Vanguard is Eugene, choose one of your Vanguards and it gets plus 10k until the end of the battle. At the end of the battle, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, boosting during that battle, and retire it. So it's a blitz order that literally says retire your opponent's rear guard during your opponent's turn, during the battle phase. Now, it's not necessarily a plus, it's a 10k shield. It's actually just a 10k shield, so if you have room for it, that might be nice, but Eugene also wants top deck call, so he doesn't want to run too many order cards. But being able to do a 10k shield and then being able to retire something is actually a really nice combo. But the counterless one makes it kinda hard to pull off, because I don't know if the deck really has that many good options to countercharge yet, because we only have the booster from Dragonic Overlord and we have Urger, and both aren't really meant for the Eugene deck. I think maybe the booster from Overlord could be used in this deck as well, so that's something we have to look into. So guys, that were all the new cards that have been revealed. I hope you enjoyed this video. It may not have been that high quality as some of the previous videos I've tried to make, but I will put more effort into the next video where we will go over the deck profile which I plan to use for Flagberg Flagship Dragon. See you guys later. Bye.